In the heart of Kansas City, where dreams and reality collide, a moment changed everything. Travis Kelce, NFL superstar and local hero, stood on stage at Lincoln Elementary School. The water glass touched his lips. Then, through the crowd, a small voice pierced the air. A poor boy named Jimmy shouted those words that would expose a truth bigger than anyone imagined. That day, a 10-year-old child from the wrong side of the tracks discovered something in the water, something that would test the bonds between father and son, neighbor against neighbor, and force a community to face its darkest secret. This is a story of courage that comes in small packages, a tale of how one voice, no matter how small, can ripple through an entire city. Get ready to witness how a simple glass of water would connect the unlikeliest of heroes, a football legend and a boy who refused to stay silent. Travis Kelce walked through the decorated hallways of Lincoln Elementary, high-fiving students and teachers alike. The NFL star had visited dozens of schools before, but something felt different about this one. Located in the industrial outskirts of Kansas City, Lincoln Elementary stood as a beacon of hope for families struggling to make ends meet. Children pressed their faces against classroom windows, watching in awe as their hero passed by, his championship ring catching the fluorescent lights above. The school gymnasium buzzed with excitement as hundreds of students sat cross-legged on the floor. Principal Henderson had organized this special assembly to announce a new scholarship program sponsored by local businesses. In the back row, almost hidden from view, sat Jimmy Mitchell, a 10-year-old boy whose worn-out sneakers and second-hand clothes told the story of his family's hardships. While other children chatted and laughed, Jimmy sat quietly, his eyes fixed on the glass of water being placed on the podium for the guest speaker. The air conditioning hummed overhead as Travis approached the stage, his confident smile lighting up the room. Behind him, a table displayed bottles of water provided by Western Chemical Solutions, the company proudly sponsoring the event. As Travis reached for the glass, time seemed to slow down. Jimmy Mitchell rose to his feet, his heart pounding against his chest. He'd seen something yesterday at his father's workplace, something that kept him awake all night. Now, as Travis Kelce lifted the glass toward his lips, Jimmy knew he had to make a choice that would change everything. The gymnasium froze as Jimmy's voice echoed off the walls, a desperate plea that cut through the excited chatter. 300 pairs of eyes turned toward the small figure standing in the back, his blue checkered shirt hanging loose on his thin frame. Principal Henderson's welcoming smile faded, replaced by a look of concern as Travis Kelce slowly lowered the glass, his expression shifting from confusion to curiosity. The water inside rippled gently, catching the light from above in an unusual way. Jimmy trembled under the weight of everyone's stares, but his eyes never left the glass in Travis's hand. Yesterday's memory flashed through his mind, the strange conversation he overheard while waiting for his father outside Western Chemical Solutions, the sight of workers quickly changing water containers when inspectors arrived, and the haunting words about cost-cutting measures that made his stomach turn. His father's warning to stay quiet about what he saw played on repeat in his thoughts, but something stronger than fear pushed him forward. Principal Henderson moved toward Jimmy, ready to escort him out for disrupting the assembly. But Travis Kelce raised his hand, stopping her in her tracks. The football star's instincts, honed by years of reading defenses on the field, told him this was more than just a child seeking attention. Something in the boy's eyes spoke of urgency, of truth, trying to break free. As Travis placed the glass back on the podium, he made a decision that would set in motion events no one in that gymnasium could have predicted. He stepped off the stage, and with each footstep echoing through the silent room, walked directly toward Jimmy. Principal Henderson's office had never felt smaller as Travis Kelce sat across from Jimmy Mitchell, whose sneakers barely touched the floor from the oversized chair. The room's thick silence was broken only by the gentle whir of an old desk fan and the distant sound of children returning to their classrooms. The NFL star studied the young boy's face, noting the dark circles under his eyes and the way his fingers nervously played with a loose thread on his shirt sleeve. The truth spilled out like a dam breaking as Jimmy explained what he witnessed at Western Chemical Solutions. His father, John Mitchell, had worked as a maintenance supervisor there for 15 years, climbing his way up from janitor to keep food on the table. But 3 months ago, everything changed when new management took over. Jimmy described seeing workers dumping unknown substances into the water supply late at night, watching through the facility's chain-link fence while waiting for his dad's shift to end. He overheard conversations about cutting corners, about saving money by reducing filtration processes, and about keeping everything quiet. The gravity of Jimmy's words hung heavy in the air as Sarah Bennett, Travis's girlfriend and environmental lawyer, arrived at the school. She had been across town when Travis urgently called her, but one look at the boy's face told her this was serious. Jimmy clutched a worn backpack to his chest, finally unzipping it to reveal something that made both Travis and Sarah lean forward in their chairs. Inside was a notebook filled with dates, times, and detailed observations written in a child's careful handwriting, along with several water samples in cleaned-out soda bottles, each labeled with locations around the school grounds. John Mitchell sat at his kitchen table, calloused hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee as moonlight filtered through worn curtains. His wife Susan stood behind him, gently squeezing his shoulders, while their son Jimmy slept upstairs. The couple faced Travis Kelce and Sarah Bennett, who had insisted on coming to their modest home after learning the full scope of the situation. The Mitchells' small living room, filled with family photos and second-hand furniture, told the story of a family that had fought for everything they had. John's voice cracked as he confirmed his son's discoveries. As maintenance supervisor, he had access to areas most employees never saw. He explained how the new management had gradually replaced experienced workers with temporary staff, changed suppliers without proper documentation, and ignored safety protocols. The weight of this knowledge had been crushing him, but with 3 months left until retirement and Susan's medical bills piling up, he felt trapped in an impossible choice between protecting public health and protecting his family's future. The conversation was interrupted by headlights sweeping across the living room wall as a black SUV drove slowly past their house for the 3rd time that evening. Sarah noticed how John's shoulders tensed and Susan's hand trembled as she clutched her husband's shoulder. Travis pulled back the curtains slightly, watching the vehicle disappear around the corner, its taillights glowing like red eyes in the darkness. The simple act of sharing the truth had already set something in motion, and now the Mitchells couldn't help but wonder if they had opened a door that could never be closed. Main Street in Kansas City's industrial district transformed into a battlefield of whispers and accusations. Outside Joe's Diner, where locals had shared coffee and conversation for decades, groups now clustered at separate tables. The morning. Regulars, many wearing Western Chemical Solutions work uniforms, eyed their neighbors with suspicion while discussing the latest rumors about the water investigation that had consumed their tight-knit community. At Lincoln Elementary, the changes were even more visible. Parents who once chatted during morning drop-off now hurried their children inside without making eye contact. The PTA meeting attendance doubled, splitting the school gymnasium into 2 clear factions. On one side sat families whose livelihoods depended on Western Chemical Solutions, their faces tight with worry about their mortgages and children's futures. On the other, concerned parents demanded immediate action, clutching water testing reports that Sarah Bennett's legal team had begun circulating. The tension reached its peak when Marcus Thompson, Western Chemical's new CEO, called an emergency town hall meeting. The local community center overflowed as residents poured in, some wearing company logos, others carrying protest signs. Security. Guards stood at the doors, their presence a stark reminder of how much had changed since Jimmy's revelation. Travis Kelce's arrival caused a stir, but it was the sight of Jimmy and his father John entering through a side door that silenced the restless crowd. The father and son walked down the center aisle, parting the sea of neighbors who had known them for years, but now seemed like strangers, each step echoing through the hushed room. Sarah Bennett's office on the 15th floor of downtown Kansas City hummed with activity as her team sorted through mountains of documents. Travis sat beside her, reviewing employee testimonies that had started flooding in since the story broke. Their evidence wall displayed a complex web of photos, shipping manifests, and water test results, all connected by red strings that led to a single photo of Western Chemical's corporate headquarters. The morning sun cast long shadows across the timeline of events, highlighting how deep the corruption truly ran. In another part of town, Jimmy's notebook had become the key to unlocking the entire case. His childlike sketches of truck schedules and careful notes about strange midnight deliveries matched perfectly with Sarah's team's findings. Security. Footage from nearby businesses, obtained through anonymous tips, confirmed every detail the 10-year-old had documented. Even more surprising were the dozens of emails from other children at Lincoln Elementary who had noticed strange tastes and odors, but had been too afraid to speak up. The breakthrough came unexpectedly through social media when Travis posted a simple photo of himself sharing a bottled water with Jimmy at a local park. The image went viral, catching the attention of a former Western Chemical employee who had transferred from their Texas facility 6 months ago. The employee's message was clear. What was happening in Kansas City had happened before, and he had proof. As Sarah's phone lit up with the incoming evidence, Travis watched Jimmy playing basketball outside her office window, amazed at how this child's courage had started a chain reaction that was about to expose decades of corporate misconduct across multiple states. The executive boardroom of Western Chemical Solutions fell silent as Travis Kelce and Sarah Bennett laid out their evidence on the polished mahogany table. The presentation screens behind them displayed damning proof. Jimmy's detailed observations matched perfectly with satellite imagery showing unauthorized dumping activities, employee testimonies from multiple states, and chemical analysis reports that left no room for denial. Marcus Thompson, the CEO, sat motionless at the head of the table, his face ashen as decades of corporate secrets unraveled before his eyes. Outside the corporate headquarters, hundreds of community members gathered in peaceful protest, many holding signs with Jimmy's photo and the words, "The truth flows free." Local news crews captured the moment when John Mitchell, still wearing his maintenance supervisor uniform, walked through the building's glass doors to join the demonstration. His co-workers, initially hesitant, began stepping forward one by one to stand beside him. The company's carefully constructed wall of silence crumbled as employees from every department chose truth over fear. The breakthrough came when Sarah presented her final piece of evidence, a comprehensive plan for water system rehabilitation that would not only fix the contamination, but create new jobs and establish Western Chemical as an industry leader in environmental protection. The proposal included a scholarship foundation for environmental science students, starting with full college funding for Jimmy Mitchell. Travis watched as the board members exchanged glances, knowing they faced a choice between public disgrace and transformative change. As Marcus Thompson reached for the document, his hands trembling slightly, the atmosphere in the room shifted from confrontation to collaboration. A warm spring breeze carried the sound of applause across the newly renovated Lincoln Elementary playground. The once neglected school grounds had been transformed into a state-of-the-art educational facility, complete with a water quality testing lab where students could learn about environmental science. Travis Kelce stood at the podium, but this time he wasn't alone. Jimmy Mitchell stood beside him, no longer in worn-out clothes, but wearing a crisp blue blazer with a shiny pin that read, Student Environmental Ambassador. Western Chemical Solutions had undergone its own metamorphosis. The company's new transparent water treatment facility featured observation windows and public tours, becoming a model for corporate responsibility nationwide. John Mitchell had been promoted to Environmental Safety Director, leading a team of specialists committed to maintaining the highest standards of water quality. The sight of father and son working together during weekend demonstrations had become a symbol of the community's healing. The parking lot of Joe's Diner was full again, but now with a different energy. Former adversaries shared tables, planning the next phase of community improvements. Sarah Bennett's legal team had helped establish a groundbreaking profit-sharing program between Western Chemical and the local residents, ensuring that economic success would flow back into the community. As Travis watched Jimmy demonstrating water testing techniques to a group of eager elementary students, he realized that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest voices, and that courage, like clean water, becomes stronger when it flows freely. 1 year after Jimmy's brave shout, Kansas City gathered at Arrowhead Stadium for an event that had nothing to do with football. The massive screens displayed images of water droplets as thousands of people filled the stands, not to watch a game, but to celebrate the city's transformation. Western Chemical Solutions, now rebranded as Eco Water Innovations, had become the nation's leading advocate for corporate environmental responsibility. Their water treatment model had been adopted by companies across the country, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Jimmy Mitchell, now 11, walked onto the field alongside Travis Kelce and Sarah Bennett. The trio had become inseparable, working together to establish the Young Voices for Change Foundation, which empowered children to speak up about environmental concerns in their communities. The foundation had already helped expose and resolve similar issues in 12 other cities, proving that age was no barrier to creating meaningful change. The sight of Jimmy confidently addressing the crowd, sharing his story with poise and purpose, brought tears to his parents' eyes as they watched from the front row. As the evening sun cast long shadows across the field, Travis presented Jimmy with the first Guardian of Truth Award, a recognition that would be given annually to young environmental advocates. The stadium erupted in applause as Jimmy raised the crystal trophy, its surface catching the light like pure, clean water. The ceremony concluded with the announcement of a nationwide educational program, ensuring that every school would have its own environmental testing lab and student advocacy program. In that moment, as thousands of people stood cheering, it became clear that the simple act of one boy shouting, "Don't drink that," had not just saved a community, it had started a movement. Sometimes all it takes is one pure drop of truth to clear troubled waters.